So hi everyone and good morning. We are online here for this great webinar. Hear a great story of London Borough of Lambeth's digital transformation story. And I'm Kustaa Virtanen. I'm from Evosys and I'll be hosting this webinar today. Today's agenda is basically that we start with introduction of Oracle and Evosys shortly. And then I will hand over to Hamant at London Borough of Lambeth to go through their digital transformation journey. And then that is the main part of this webinar. So that is a great story and really looking forward to hearing that as well and broadcasting to this audience here. And then we end the webinar with questions and answers. And you can anytime also post your question to the chat of the webinar solution. So that is very good. And the questions and answers will be approximately 10 minutes from the end. So great. And today's speakers, we have Kimmo Karppi from Oracle Finland, and he will introduce himself in a short time or shortly. And then me as a sales director for Nordics, and then of course Hamant from London Borough of Lambeth. So at this time I would like to hand over to Kimmo Karppi at Oracle Finland to speak about Oracle's cloud position and solutions.
Hello everybody.
So if you think about Evosys as a company, so we are a big Oracle partner worldwide. We only specialized in Oracle products. We have experience in the Oracle on-premise world, and then of course in the cloud implementations worldwide. So basically, we can be called a digital transformation company on the basis and customer experience what we do. And basically our specialization, if you can see on top of the screen, so 8 Oracle Cloud pillars. We do a range of those, and our service is focused on many aspects of the digital transformation journey. So we start usually with business consulting and we provide that to our customers, and then we take care of the implementation. And then of course the managed services also at the end of the process. And we see that managed service part increasing a lot in our customers. And we provide managed services both for the Oracle on-premise world and the cloud world. And those managed services are different, of course. They, on-premise demands different kind of managed service, and cloud different kind of managed service. We currently have more than 1,500 experts, and it's global Oracle workforce. And then we have more than 1,000 customers on the Oracle Cloud. And I believe that figure tells you a good story about the trust and confidence of our customers towards Evosys. And just to quickly go through a little bit more in detail. So we, if you look at the right-hand side, you can see solution deployed across the Oracle Cloud customers. I believe that people at this webinar, they recognize, or you recognize ERP as a solution, right? So, but then for instance HCM, it means human capital management. So we have the most of our customers are in human capital management. And then EPM is enterprise performance management, which usually goes in hand to hand with ERP solutions. And Oracle has a great platform for that as well. And then SCM is supply chain management. So we look at those customers, and that is also crucial to ERP transformations usually. And like you can see at the below that figures, or below those figures, you can see that we have multiple awards, and we are very recognized from Oracle side as well as a partner. So if you think about Evosys and how we make this possible for you, so it's always a big change when you move to cloud products and when you move from on-premise ecosystems like You can move from SAP, you can move from Oracle EBS solutions to Oracle Cloud products. And Evosys, as a company, we have many years of experience in moving customers from different ecosystems to Oracle Cloud. And we have this program called Evosys Glide that basically helps you in that transformation. So with Evosys Glide, we have developed that program, and with the help of that, and together with Evosys, you can adapt a new process, or you can even move a business function, and you can transfer the business process when Oracle Cloud is your solution and you have chosen that. So, and then I believe that is a good program, and Hamant will also, mention and talk about this Evosys Glide program in his presentations, or in his presentation. Yeah, and if you think about Evosys global presence, so when we think about the customers that we serve, we have multiple industries, and the digital transformation and the journey to cloud is not solely one area of one industry or that we think about. It's more about overall scheme of things at the moment. So in Nordics, we have, for instance, here on the left-hand side on the upper screen, so we have Technical University of Denmark, good customer of ours, EBS customer as well in the history in the past. And then we have South Danish University from the Nordic, from Denmark as well. So, and then of course Lambeth, that you will learn more today. And then we have, for instance, Corplex, which is a manufacturer. And then of course Royal Cargo as a logistics operator, for instance, to mention. And then brands like Virgin Media that most of us know, and then of course Vodafone and Samsonite as global brands. But as you can see, we have many public sector customers, not only in UK, but also in Nordics. And then we have many nice familiar companies as our customer base. So this is basically what I wanted to talk about Evosys. And if Kimmo is ready, we can take another shot on Oracle presentation and then move to Hamant's presentation. So thank you. Kimmo, here we go.
So Kimmo Karppi is my name, and coming from Oracle Finland, cloud application sales, plus 16 years Oracle, working with a lot of partners, companies, customers, whatever. And what I would like to tell you after this short presentation of Kustas here is that I think the difficult times are really setting up the standard even higher. That those who have some kind of outdated systems will see that the moment more drastically than the other ones. And therefore, I think that all kind of, let's say, basic things that you would like to be connected, you would like to fast in your financial closes, you would like to be very resilient in your operations, very agile logistics, and nothing is actually more important than those at the moment. But anyway, I think that we can't go and just play with the COVID and the effects of that. I think that generically, where does it actually then reside is that is our back office and the solutions we have in our back office, is that holding us back? So can we really actually meet the business requirements, the environment requirements from us, from our other businesses, colleagues, organizations, customers, partners, and so on? So, and this is kind of thing that what is a little bit actually holding back most of the customers of ours today, that there has been a long legacy tradition, and now it's time to change. And of course, the crisis, of course, launches these things a little bit differently than they were planned to be. So having kind of not the situation that the back office is holding back should be something that you can have a modern system which is then supporting you with your modern technology, providing you AI, different kind of blockchain where needed, and so on, to enable you test new business models, to apply new business models, to do mergers and acquisitions, which are actually today very normal operations with everybody. workforce growth or then actually decrease and so on. So everything should be in shape and should be actually be supported with your back office. And the back office from Oracle, from the Oracle Cloud, actually can do that because no other cloud goes that deep and far with function what we have. Everything from cloud, everything supported by best of breed integration to any other systems. You can even expand the systems with actually building not customization of the system, but on the side of that, and they will work with the updates to the system. And all this, what we have done at Oracle, is very, let's say, I would say, welcomed by the analysts at the moment. So we are on the top of the list of the Gartner reports almost all over. Is it financials? Is it financial planning? Is it financial close? Is it supply chain? You always actually find us on the top right corner. And of course, this is not only that we are doing a back office and then we see, yes, we are fine, but we also want to change the way of working from the one that actually we were moving the data in between the applications, moving the data between the silos, and then spending the time with, let's say, very skilled and expensive people with that. We want to change the work from the data manipulation and pure, simple analysis to very strategic actions people can make in their role. So this is then changing the game and actually making you utilize the system. And all that, that we can actually have that is not happening with the old way of having legacy, that we do something, we upgrade that after 5 years, because the new functionalities, the new innovations Oracle is bringing to the application don't go there unless you have the cloud, which is updating quarterly, new innovations, new features, new functionality coming on, and then it means that you can deploy and start to utilize those in your business at the same time. So this is very important. This changes the game totally. And for us, that means that this kind of customer first, that what customers are asking, what they're actually proposing us to actually change in the system, that is the most important thing for us. Because with the cloud, when customer is subscribing something for us, we can't go away. We are living with you. It's important for us that actually we are doing the most complete offering in our cloud. And that's something you are valuing with us. It's important that we are doing new innovations very fast in the system, that you can have something new out of that. And then it's very important that you are actually then counting us as a proven partner with you, and of course with the different kind of, let's say, organizations like Evosys here. And the proof of that is, of course, that we have a community of 7,000 plus application customers, all industries, all regions, Nordics, every Nordic country, Europe, every European country, South, North, UK, Ireland, everywhere, and of course then Asia and USA. So this is a kind of generic one, but it's a proof of that we can do that. So our commitment to you is that we are working with our ecosystem like Evosys to bring you the best things out of Oracle's offering in the applications, and we would like to work with them to provide you the experience. And I think that this is now something we will hear from Hamant as a real customer case. So any questions you will have, then Gustav will provide my detailed contact information to you. So to Hamant.
Good morning, everyone, and welcome to this session. Really looking forward to sharing our experiences with all of you. Now, I would have loved to do this in front of you in a room, kind of is a lot more kind of friendly and interactive, but we'll try this and see how it goes. As Gustav mentioned in his introduction, that there will be an opportunity for questions, and there's also an opportunity if you want to come back to us separately. We can kind of talk about things specific for you that might kind of help. I've got a couple of slides that I'm going to run through. I'm happy to share the slides afterwards because there's quite a lot of content in there which you might want to kind of take away and kind of think about what that means for you. So a little bit about Lambeth. We're in the centre of London, just south of the river. We are one of 33 administrative districts within London. In inner London, which is, well, London's divided into centre, inner and outer. In the inner, we're one of the largest boroughs. We have a population of just over 320,000. One of the key things about us is that we have a relatively young population. However, 65% of our household live in rented accommodation, so they don't own property, which creates a different dynamic because they're kind of short term. They'll stay for a while, then move on. So we've got quite a lot of that kind of transition happening with our people. This is just to kind of put out a statement around what our digital vision is. It's not just about technology, it's about the opportunities that technology can give our residents, because our main focus is improving the lives of our residents, and what can we do to make that our kind of primary objective. Some overview around this. Financial challenges. Anybody who knows local government, particularly in the UK, the last 10 years have been, I'd say last 12 years have been extremely painful. We've had significant reductions in our funding from central government. We've had to go and find other ways of getting investment in. We've had to put in more efficiencies, huge amount of saving that we needed to do. As part of that, we've also needed to kind of think about how do we improve services and basically enable users to kind of do self-service. And that's not just our staff, but also our residents, giving them the kind of tools and opportunities to make their life better. So part of that also meant that we wanted to kind of look at our workspaces and how do we kind of improve and modernize those, and how do we improve the user experience, as well as improving management information for decision making, because it's about how do you make that whole journey in the organization smoother and more responsive and agile, I think is the word. Historically, there's always a reputation issue, because we serve quite a diverse range of residents and customers. That you're going to have pockets of kind of poor practice, some services not up to the standard that you would expect. So we were looking at retransforming all of that. In 2010, we joined up with 6 other councils to put in a shared service arrangement. That was challenging throughout the time. It took a long time to put it in, and then it did require a lot of kind of maintenance and oversight and cost through that period. That arrangement was coming to an end in 2018. So our journey for Cloud started in kind of July 2016, where we were kind of looking at our options. Aligned with this, there was an underlying framework that we were trying to achieve, was a program called Future Lambeth. So we were kind of seriously thinking about what does Lambeth look like in kind of 2025, 2030, and what kind of organization do we want to be, which means where do we want to be, what kind of office accommodation we want, what kind of people we want, what kind of skills we want. That is going to kind of really kind of think about transforming the lives of our residents. And the key thing there was around nurturing and developing staff, not kind of getting rid of them and replacing them, but actually taking our staff on a journey. And part of that was by using efficient technologies, and cloud being one of them. And I'll tell a little bit about that in a minute. So our key drivers for change, as I mentioned, we were on almost an on-premise solution, shared with 6 other councils. And anybody who's had their own kind of ERP system will recognize some of these things. You have infrastructure hosting costs, you have lots of interface costs that you need to kind of manage. There's also the cost of running the service, customizations. If it's an on-premise one, if you have the system in your kind of building, you kind of look after it, the chances are you will do a lot of customizations because you can. There is also the initial cost of implementations, and then whenever you're doing your upgrades, you then need to kind of invest more to make sure that all of those customizations and interface continue to work. And then not forgetting, there's always the annual costs to Oracle for licensing and software and all that kind of stuff that goes with it. I briefly mentioned the Future Lambeth program. So we were looking at how to make work simpler, smarter, and create a stronger organization, investing in our workforce and skills, investing in new buildings. So we kind of got rid of 14 buildings that we had. We put in 2 new buildings. so that there were kind of modern buildings with new technologies and new working arrangements. And we reduced our kind of office occupation from 1 desk for everybody to about 6 desks for 10 people. So we were already starting on the journey to kind of reuse our office space differently. We'd already put in Office 365, SharePoint, Skype for Business, digital mail, a whole host of things about making that work experience a lot more easier and smoother and kind of remote, as in say we can work from anywhere. We'd done a major reorganization design about the shape of the organization that we wanted, and we were kind of ready to move into our new buildings. So that kind of sets our kind of drivers for business change. You will each have your own version of that. So that's kind of something to kind of think about and take away. Why move to the cloud? So I've kind of touched on some of those things already. It's about providing space and cost savings. If you have a data center and a computer room and all that kind of stuff in your own premises, that's a cost. If you're in central London, like we are, that property cost is really expensive. And it's not one that we can afford. The other thing is, it's not our core business. So why are we doing it? If you can try and find somebody else to do that, much better. The other reason for cloud is, as I mentioned, customizations. We wanted to strip all that out, and I'll tell you about why that comes into play. When you're thinking about the total cost of the application, customizations are probably one of the larger costs, because you put them in and then you have to continuously maintain them and kind of make sure that every time there's an upgrade or an update or whatever you call it, you then have to recheck that customization again. It's quite intensive. When we want to strip all that out, and we were looking at kind of, I think you would normally go for best in class, but we were looking for standard processes around our key activities that would actually work without having to do anything different with it. The other thing for us was, normally when you buy a system, even Oracle in the old days, you bought it and then every few years there would be an upgrade coming through, and you would kind of park it as long as you could because you didn't want to do it. You would wait until Oracle kind of said they were going to turn it off or something along those lines, and then you do a whole new major project to upgrade it. And we didn't want that kind of disturbance in the system. We wanted something that was kept up to date on a regular basis, so that it was business as usual rather than a project type upgrade. That has a significant benefit about how you kind of think about it. The other thing was, we wanted to use technology platform for the future. And as I say, cloud was one of our kind of key drivers. So we'd already kind of started on the cloud journey for our other applications. We wanted all of our applications to be cloud first. So that was one of our kind of key mantras, to make sure that it was all ready for the future around that. I already mentioned about core purpose. Our core purpose is delivering services to the public, our residents and our communities. That's what we do. That's what we're here for. So managing IT systems, that's not my business. So why should we do it? So kind of that kind of shaped our conversation. So when we started looking, we'd already used Oracle. So we knew quite a bit about it. We'd also had conversations about what the Oracle future looked like, because cloud was in its early stages when we were looking at it in 2016. But this was their vision, that this is how they were going to put it together, and how can we kind of work with this. So for us, what we were looking at is, what we wanted to do is, when you do a project like this, it's usually a major project and you kind of create a whole kind of industry around it. We tried to kind of talk about this as an upgrade from our existing ERP solutions to a cloud solution, so that it didn't appear as a wholesale change in the organization. That kind of helps with communications and engagement and onboarding for users. And because from what we'd seen, it provided the opportunity to standardize and simplify systems and business processes. Again, key reasons why we wanted to do that. And then putting it on the cloud made it such that it would be easier to support mobile and agile working, so that people can access the system from anywhere. They didn't need to be in our buildings using our computers to kind of work. So again, kind of fixes that. Key thing I've highlighted is we wanted a reduction in system maintenance, support, and upgrade requirements, so that we're focused on what our key role is. That kind of sets who we are. This is what it looks like now. I'm not going to go through this, but there is a lot of content in here, and in the last 4 years, we've continued to add more things to it. So we've kind of continued to expand the footprint because it's easier to do in this new world. Any project, the key thing is to understand your stakeholders. There's lots of them, and you need to kind of get that right early on and make sure that you bring them on board. There's a whole piece of work around stakeholder and stakeholder management, which I've not gone into here, but it's one that you should kind of consider as part of your journey. So, how did we go around this? So for us, this was very clear about how we were going to kind of, Oracle Cloud was part of our future Lambeth vision, and kind of making sure that it was understood in the organization how this would work. The project team that we set up was with Lambeth, Evosys, we used an organization called Soxton, and Oracle together, working in the same space as kind of a one team. So you didn't have the them and us kind of conversations you normally have in some of these projects. The key thing to remember here is that it was our project. You, the client, own this, so you need to make sure that you're in charge of this. And for that, we have the structure on the right of the slide, which talks about the Oracle Transformation Board. That was responsible for kind of making sure that everything happened when it did, and managing the kind of the project. Reported into the management board, chaired by Chief Exec. Key pieces about engagement and consultation. We talked regularly to all of the stakeholders around where we were going. And we had a program around change and engagement that kind of set alongside that to make sure that all of that was connected together. That's one of the key pieces around this. So our journey. So as I said, we started in kind of 2016 was our kind of first kind of, what do we do? The actual project started in March 2017, and we went live in April 2018. So a 12-month project, but we were ready by month 11 to go live. But year end and how we work is that we wanted to kind of wait until April to kind of switch everything over. Overall, it was a very smooth transition. There was no kind of disturbances. What we did was we kept our old system open for 3 months after March 2018, so we could close the financial year in the old system and just bring in balances. Again, I'll tell you about why we would make that choice, and you may have a different choice. We opened up the new system on the 3rd of April, so you could start using that for your new transactions. That does require a bit of management, but it's kind of worked for us. We were the first UK authority to run Oracle Cloud, and the first to use Oracle Cloud Payroll. That was an experience, and I'm happy to share that separately. Change management plays a crucial role, because part of this is about making sure that users kind of understand what is going to change and how it's going to affect them, and being clear about how they access the kind of the new benefits and working through that. The things that we wanted out of the project around self-service and reduced time for maintenance, achieved. Costs, we managed to reduce our overall footprint cost, and we delivered the whole project within the agreed budget. Smooth go live of financials, procurement, and HR. Bit of issues with payroll, but I think that's understandable because that was the first global, almost kind of cloud payroll that was being run. But with 3 parallel runs, it was there. So again, very easy to get it done because we had the right level of engagement from both Oracle and Evosys to make that happen. And then we've continued to roll out extra functionality of the system as we kind of do the quarterly updates, and I'll kind of touch on that briefly in the next slide. So what does that do? It enabled people to work across functions. We've kind of pushed back budget responsibility to budget managers because they're now actively involved in budget setting and budget monitoring through the Oracle Planning and Budgeting, but now called Oracle EPM, Performance Management. So that you have to keep up with the names because they keep changing them regularly just to keep us on our toes. The other thing is that because we use EPM, a lot of that data is much more easier to view on a corporate basis, and we can do corporate reporting a lot more smoothly. So we've kind of done that. Kimo showed you some pillars about Oracle's offering, and we've basically taken their entire suite, but then you'd have a choice of which bits of it you want to kind of switch on and when. So that you do get a lot of choice in there that you kind of need to kind of think about how you're going to use that. So just some key headlines about when we went live. Easter weekend. So that's quite a nice window because everything's closed for 4 days. So you've got a chance to kind of make sure that everything works. We rolled out to 800 core users on that weekend. And then the following, over the next 2 weeks, we brought on the rest of our 3,000 users. So across that, everybody, financials, procurement, HR, project financials, live. And in May, we'd had the first standalone payroll. Worked fine. We had a bit of an issue, but that was because there was a problem with some of the bank accounts set up. But again, easily identified and worked through. We then put in performance management, absence, learning and development. So quite good footprint to go through it. Some of the user feedback we've had, it's easy and simple to use. We put in single sign-on, so people sign on to our network, and then it is then connected to Oracle Cloud sign-on, so you don't have to remember another password. So that's always a win, the less passwords you have. But you do need that connectivity through. We've deployed a number of dashboards to kind of make it look easier and smart and kind of accessible. We've also kind of put in a lot of kind of support within the system. So if you, rather than kind of providing training, there is online embedded training at various stages. So if I want to raise a purchase order, there's a couple of seconds video which says these are the 4 things you need to do to run that purchase order through. So move that through. So that kind of tells you about the implementation of things. Way forward. The thing about cloud is it doesn't stop. So you need to be prepared for that, about what else, what next, and what do you want to do with that. So there are choices that you need to kind of think about. And this kind of ties back to one of the things that Kimo said about Oracle having to change as a service provider, which is different from a software provider. So that relationship switch is really key, and you need to kind of get ahead of that. So what does this mean for us? Already touched on the change in the relationship with Oracle. Again, really key. The support model that we've had to put in, we've got an in-house support function, which brings together subject matter experts, and they do all of the kind of the testing on a quarterly basis and kind of run that through. We continue to extend the footprint and functionality. The quarterly update is critical for this. So part of this is we can do the quick quarterly update kind of almost within kind of 24 hours after it gets released. We get it tested, we put it in, and it works. We've had no issues with the quarterly updates we've been running since 2018. And so since 2018, we've only had 2 very brief outages, and both of those are resolved very quickly. So again, the thing about moving to the cloud is making sure that the database and the servers and all of that kind of stuff works is not my problem anymore. It's Oracle's job to make sure it's up and running and available when I want it. That's a big change. If you were running this on your own premises, that's your problem. So there's something about making sure that you kind of, that's one of the key benefits about moving to the cloud. I've got a few more slides about business readiness. I'm going to quickly run through those, but again, you'll have an opportunity to kind of work through some questions, and as I said, we'll share those with you as well separately. Key things: be clear about why you're doing this. Clearly set out your objectives and what is it you're looking for. clear governance, really important. You need to make sure who's the decision makers, and making sure that people on the project are being held to account for what they're doing and actually make decisions. Be very transparent about what those decisions are and have you arrived at those. Because again, what you don't want is somebody coming along and said, I asked for this functionality and you haven't delivered it. So again, really key. Resources, you need to make sure you've got the right people around the table. Partnership, again, really key. As I say, this is a different implementation. This is a different project. So you need to make sure that your implementation partner, if you're using one, Oracle, are all in that same space and they're part of that journey. The other bit is the bit that's internal to you. The data, you need to understand your data. You need to think about what it is you want to migrate, because not everything should. So there's a resourcing implication that you need to think about. And for that, start cleaning as early as possible. You will run out of time. Data cleaning never happens as well as you think it should at the start. So being very clear about that. Something simple like chart of accounts, if you're going to revisit that, do it before you start the project. Again, some of those kind of key things, making sure you've got them right early on. Third-party vendor management, this is what I was kind of talking about, our relationship with Oracle and your implementation partner. Be very clear about who's in charge. When I talked about objectives, clearly set out what your priorities are. What are the things that you actually want to kind of tick off that this delivered? This is our list. You'll have your own list, but very clear, and monitor and track those, because that should be what you do, why you're doing this. Talked about governance, project, program management, senior responsible officer. Again, key pieces that you kind of need to have early and put together. Touched on this briefly as well in my opening slide around it's a partnership. This isn't kind of for Oracle to sell you a bit of software and walk away and hopefully it all works. No, you need to kind of bring everybody together and make sure that this is a joint project. The success of it depends on that. It's critical. I talked about data. This is one of your key phases for success. Be clear about what data you're going to bring across. We decided not to bring across any of the account AP data across, purchase orders, all of that stayed in the old system. Only opening balances kind of came across. AR, you need to be a bit more kind of cautious about. You need to make sure that you bring in open invoices. So again, clear around that. Because the thing is, it doesn't matter how much you clean your data, it'll never be clean. So you need to kind of think about, is it easier to start fresh? In some cases, it might be better. Think about your resources, because every time you do a data migration, it's very intensive just to clean it and then work out the extracts and put it through, put it into the system. You then have to test it, check it, make sure it's all in the right place. So again, quite intensive. Be very clear about the resourcing around that. Our approach. Kim on his slide mentioned around the Evosys Glide solution. Now, I take great pleasure in it because I think we were one of the first kind of global success for moving to cloud with Evosys, and we think we helped to kind of shape this product, and we continue to use this for our added functionality as we've kind of worked that through. And again, with our relationship with Oracle, I think because we were one of the first cloud providers, we have a very strong relationship with Oracle and about helping them transform into a service provider organization. So again, we take some credit for that, but I think it is dependent on each of us to make sure that we're kind of pushing that as much as we can, because it is our success.
So thank you very much. We are looking at now the questions and answers.
Yeah, Gustav, we do have a question.
Okay, yes, you do. Okay, so please.
How much time do you spend testing the quarterly update? Do you get the quarterly update in advance of the live stream to give you time to confirm what's still working And second question, what's the size of your IT project team during and after?
Okay. So quarterly updates. Yes, what happens is that we get notification usually about 4 weeks before we're scheduled to go live. So Oracle gives you a window which says we're going to put in the update on, I don't know, 31st of December, and they'll tell us on the 1st of December. This is when, so they give you a window of usually about 3 to 5 days when they're going to switch you over. So you've then got kind of 3 weeks to make sure that you've tested it, what you want to test, and run that through and understood the functionality. The advantage of the quarterly update is the main bit of the update works fine. So you do need to test it just to make sure that it's going to work for you. Any new functionality that's delivered is always implemented as switched off. So you then have a choice if you want to kind of do that extra piece, and then you can kind of work that through. So you do get notification. There's a lot of content available on Oracle Customer Connect that kind of guides you through the new product release, what it is you should be watching out for, what tests, all that kind of stuff is there. We have test scripts that we run to kind of make sure that our standard activities and processes are kind of being done in the right framework. So we kind of work that through. When we first started it, it took us it would take about 5 or 6 days worth of testing to make sure, and that part of that was our confidence that we kind of weren't quite there yet. Now we can kind of usually do our testing within about 24 hours, and then we'll kind of accept the upgrade, accept the update, and then it gets running overnight, and none of those have had any delays to normal working. So when we've said that we're updating on a Saturday evening, by Sunday morning, it's all done and we're ready to run the business again. So again, no downtime for doing updates. They happen overnight. It's like on your phone. If you accept an update, it just runs through and everything works fine. That's the principle. We've found that works. So we've not had any instances of failure in functionality.
Okay, another question for Hamant. Thanks for the presentation. Did you track improvements in your UX? Sorry.
Oh, sorry, UX is a bit technical. I'm not quite sure, trying to work out what that is.
Okay.
UX is user experience.
User experience.
Yeah.
One of the things we did was, from day one of the move to cloud, there was a key message to the organization, is that it wasn't about this is what's changing. The conversation was, this is how we work now. So we were very clear about this is the new way that the council will work. This is what your new role is. This is how you're going to be working. So we were able to kind of work that through. And then we do regular kind of surveys of our user community, kind of understand any issues that they're experiencing, and then follow through on those. So we do kind of track that continuous improvement on the offer that we're delivering.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, if you had to go through the whole process again, would you do it differently?
No, I think one of the things we've learned is, when we first said, anybody who we talked to and we said we're going to do this in 12 months, most people laughed because you couldn't do a project this size in 12 months. We did it in 11. What I would suggest is that you can do it in a shorter time frame still, so that it is possible to do it in a short time frame. But it does mean you have to be very clear about the objectives and the principles and what it is you want to kind of out of it. So if you were looking for I hate using the term, the vanilla installation, because that's what it is, then it's a lot more smoother. So I think one of the kind of the language is around adoption. So if you're going to adopt the Oracle Cloud application and functionality as is, I would think the ambition should be, it's a switch on and start working. The key piece then is the data. So it is possible to do this quicker. Anything else I would change? Payroll did give us a bit of a nightmare because when we first started the journey in 2017, Oracle didn't have a cloud payroll, but they said they would. So you can imagine how the project is trundling along and you've got key functionality, which is still kind of in development.
Yeah.
But I would say that almost all of the functionality in the cloud is there and it all works. So there's something about being clear about what it is you're going to take on.
Okay. There is this next question. What was the organization change for your internal organization? Did you resize, restrain for new areas, etc.?
Yeah. Okay. So our project team, what we did was we took people from each of the kind of the subject areas. So we got somebody from our AP team, somebody from our AR team, somebody from HR into the project. So we made sure that we had people in the project team who understood the business and what it is that we were kind of working towards. So very clear about that. It was a collaborative team between Oracle, Evosys, and Lambeth staff, because what we wanted to do is make sure that these people that we're bringing into the project would potentially stay on and work with us as part of the support team going forward. So when we were with the 6 councils, we didn't have a support team because we transferred all that into the kind of the shared 6 council arrangement. So we had to start that all up again. As part of that, as the project was coming to go live and end off, we were looking at what the new support arrangement would look like. So we put together a new support team that has a team manager and 5 subject matter experts, again covering the HR and AP and procurement kind of stuff. But what we've tried to do is get them to think about not just, for example, I'm AP, so I only deal with AP, but actually kind of think about the user experience, so that if anybody calls, you should be able to take them through the first few stages of their query, issue, problem, whatever it is, and then as a triage piece, you can then hand over to the specialist if you need to. What we've also put in behind that is we've continued to have an ongoing engagement with Evosys. So my in-house team does the first and second line support calls. If there's a technical issue, we then hand over to Evosys kind of pick up that piece. Behind Evosys, we've also got Oracle, so we've got that kind of multi-layered support function, and we can flex that as we need to based on what it is we're doing. So when we're implementing new functionality, we will kind of bring in more resource from Evosys and Oracle to help us do that. Business as usual, we're trying to get it to that so that our in-house support team is able to kind of manage all of that effectively. So for example, the testing of the update is now done entirely by our in-house function. When we first started, that was a joint thing with our staff and Evosys together.
That is good, very good.
Hamant, did I recall and remember right that you were also retraining your DBAs to more like to handle the cloud app?
Yes. Now, one of the things to remember is the people that you start off this journey with. So when we had our own systems and ERPs on site, we had 3 DBAs, we had system developers, and because now we don't have a system, we're not responsible for looking after it. So none of that is happening, so we can kind of take all of that away. But you can't forget the people that you've got there. So you do need to kind of be very clear about what it is you're going to do with those people. And we kind of worked with them fairly early on to see how they could support the project and helping us go forward, but then also what the future means for them. So we help them explore new job opportunities in the organization, because technology, digital, ICT, whatever you call it, isn't going away. We're still going to have to do that, but it is different in the cloud. But we've managed to kind of retrain them and move them onto other areas of IT work and digital work.
Next question is, have you seen and realized any process improvements which can be quantified after implementing Oracle Cloud? And has Evosys supported you in terms of achieving the same from an implementation perspective?
Yes, so one of the things is that we worked with Oracle to do something called value analysis. So when we started off, we looked at how long it takes to do the AP process or razor acquisition. We had a whole set of matrix that we went through, and then 2 years after going live, we revisited those back again to see what the improvement had been, and we've got demonstrable gains in process efficiencies that we've delivered. The other thing we've done is, as part of the implementation process, we've worked with Evosys to identify smoother ways of doing things. So, for example, we used to do lots of recharge journals and things in the system. What we've been able to do is reduce the number of journals that we process. So again, making sure that that efficiency is being tracked and recorded. Now, one of the things when we do these kind of projects, the big ask is how much is it saved? We tend not to focus on that because we're kind of looking at the efficiencies that we can deliver as a global thing. It's quite easy to get hung up on pound savings. There will be, but if you're tracking those, then you're probably tracking the wrong thing. It's about process efficiencies and overall improvement in service delivery.
As a comment, I could give something that is quite important, that this VAA, value adoption assessments we are doing at the moment with our CSM, Customer Success Management organization. It is something that we try to get our customers, let's say, apply quite quickly after the implementations, due to that they can see also the changes which might then take a longer time without any this kind of, let's say, insights to the project process changes. And in case customers, they don't have KPIs to measure that, then the CSMs from Oracle, they will help to do that. So it's not very intensive work, but it's very important, and that can be then done regularly afterwards when after first execution. So very welcome from the customers, and can be let's say much a little bit higher level and so on. Very adaptable for each customer.
Yeah.
But that is the kind of service you get from Oracle also with the subscription price.
Mm-hmm. One of the questions was around adopting the vanilla option. I think, again, the key thing there is that early conversation that you have with the organization around. Previously, when you did an IT project, you asked up for a specification. You went and talked to everybody about what they wanted. With a cloud implementation, that's not the conversation you to start with. The conversation we started was, this is what we're going to be using, and you tell me why this doesn't work for you. So again, quite a key kind of change in the way that we kind of think about this.
Okay, thank you. Another question is from James. Have you been able to leverage any of the additional functionality just using internal resources, or has it required set up configuration by Evosys or any external partners?
So we've continued to work with Evosys on new implementations because our in-house team is only just kind of starting to build up resource, because we recruited to the gaps in the team in the spring of this year. So they're a relatively new resource. So we've continued. So for example, we implement a GRC earlier this year, and for that we worked with Oracle and Evosys to put that in. So we continue to use that hybrid model, but the ambition is that new functionality in the quarterly updates will be addressed in the main by the in-house team.
Okay, I think this is it from the question panel.
Yeah, thank you for everyone for participating. I saw that there are many people who were online and are still online. So a big thank you to Hamant. Thank you very much for a good presentation. And thank you, Kimmo, for participating and giving insight to Oracle's word as well. So thank you to both of our guests here and to the attendees. This session will be recorded, not maybe the parts where we were struggling with the technology or sharing some screens. So not those parts. So apologies for that. And but things happen, in this wild world. So
My fault.
Thank
no,
you.
it's everybody, you know, that's life. But hey, thank you. So we will then update you when the recording is available, and then we can take it from there. And I believe you know, Hamant, you know, basically if people have other questions, so
Yeah, happy for them to come back.
yeah, exactly. So we can decide the routing then. So have a nice afternoon and nice rest of the week, and
Thank
bye.
you, everybody.